I'm Jeff Cornwall, and this is the Entrepreneurial Mind. Today our guest is Chris Hefley with Leankit. We'll be back to talk with Chris in just a moment.
Talkapolis programming is sponsored by the following. Highland Hills, a multicultural, diversified funeral home supporting the entire Davidson County community. Visit our website at www.highlandhillsfuneralhome.com or call us at 615-650-5555.
Welcome, Chris. Glad to have you here.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Leankit, you guys are project management, is that correct?
Yes. It's work management, project management, collaboration level kinds of stuff. So it can work with your existing project management system or it can replace it. A lot of times we're replacing Excel spreadsheets and people managing their work in a very informal way. But also coming into big enterprises where they have things like Oracle Primavera or Microsoft Project, and we integrate with that and provide the team level collaboration and execution layer underneath that.
So back up a little bit and exactly how did you get into this space? I mean, it's a very, very busy space. There's a lot of project management software out there.
So we started in the Agile software development community. They started experimenting with something called Kanban about 5 years ago, and it's a technique that comes from the Toyota production system as a way of implementing just-in-time manufacturing. And so we started trying to use it for knowledge work and putting it up on boards on the wall and putting tickets up on the board and moving them across. And the thing that was added to that was unique, that was different from what people were doing before, is that they started putting limits to the different stages in the process and trying to smooth out the flow of work and create that just-in-time pull system for managing work at the team level. So I was doing that on the wall with cards taped to the wall, moving them across the board to indicate progress. And I had a team of developers in Nashville, the Bahamas, Italy, and Ukraine. And every day I would get up and I would be on the phone call with these guys and I would move their cards and I would take a picture of the board with my cell phone and email it to everybody. So when the other co-founders and I of Leankit and I got together, we actually got together to start a company before we knew what we were going to build. We just sort of said we were going to do something together.
Okay, how did that happen?
We all met working at HCA Healthcare in the IT department. We worked on a big project together that lasted a couple years, and it was one of those experiences where it's kind of the best team you ever worked on, and it gels and everybody works well together. And then at different times we all left to go different places, but we kept up with each other and went to lunch every couple of months, and at some point decided we'd get the band back together and do something together.
Now, but you're all techie guys, so how have you been able to tackle having your own venture and not having that whole infrastructure of a business around you? Yeah,
so one of the co-founders was sort of a mid-level executive there. He was director of project management for the supply chain group, and so he's Georgetown MBA, and so he's got a little bit more of that. So that helped a lot getting started. We also got a lot of help from the Entrepreneurial Center too. We got to the point where we'd built a product and had some basic stuff out there. And in early 2011, we were making about $10,000 a month, and we were trying to figure out how to quit our day jobs because we'd been doing it nights and weekends the whole time up to that point. So we got involved with the Entrepreneur Center with Michael Burcham and David First, and spent a couple months there working with them, sort of helping us hone our pitch and figure out how to raise a little bit of money to be able to do that, quitting our day jobs. So we did that. We put together a pitch deck, went around, pitched it to angel investors around town, and raised $250,000, and then over the next 3 or 4 months, I all quit our day jobs and went to do it full time.
Now, are you cash flowing, or have you had to have additional rounds of financing?
We've raised several additional rounds of financing. We've raised about $9 million so far.
Oh, wow.
And we've done it all from angel investors in the local area, pretty much. So non-traditional kind of way of doing it. We've done it a little bit at a time.
That's a pretty sizable amount of angel money to amass. How many angels do you have involved?
Over 100.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's almost crowdfunding, not quite, because it's not using any of that kind of tools. But you know, the checks that come, there's investors in there anywhere between $5,000 and $1 million for a particular investor.
And how many of those are active investors? I mean, obviously, only a certain number of those folks have board seats, or?
We have 2 board seats, and we do get a lot of sort of informal advisory work from a lot of them too.
Right. Right. Do you ever have shareholder meeting where they all show up?
We do quarterly. Well, they don't all show up, but we have a quarterly meeting where a bunch of them show up, and We broadcast it as a webinar too, so a lot of them join us that way as well.
And how do you manage the agenda with that? That's a lot of very successful people with a lot of opinions flying at you at once.
Yeah, I think part of the reason it's worked well is because we've been, when things are going well, you don't get a lot of as much interference. And so if things were not going well, then you probably would have a lot more people wanting to step in. But that's part of what's helped us raise the money too, is that we continue to return good results and to continue to show good growth. So when you're telling a good story, it's not as hard to manage that.
So how have you navigated that pretty crowded space that you're in terms of project management? Have you found a certain niche or exactly what's going on?
I think we found a couple different things. So when we first started doing this Kanban-based approach, we were one of the very first people to do that in a focused way. And some of the choices we made early on about the way we implemented things and the features that we decided to take on put us in the position of being the enterprise choice. So as bigger companies started getting into this methodology and wanting to do it across hundreds or thousands of people, we were better equipped to do that than our competitors because they had all sort of focused on the small team level kind of Basecamp version of the app. So we had got some good feedback early on from folks at the BBC and some folks at EMC, one of the big consulting companies, about what they were doing in the bigger implementations they were doing, and that influenced our choices early on. So we got there in sort of the enterprise Kanban niche, and that still is a big part of where we're successful. But we started realizing too that pretty soon after we got out in the public that people were using it for all kinds of things that we never anticipated. People were using it to do university research projects, and they're using it to do homeschooling for their kids, and they're using it to do teaching kids tennis and process improvement projects for supply chain groups.
So those aren't big scale users though. I mean, how are they finding out about you?
So the biggest customers we have are the big corporate IT departments that are rolling out Kanban and Lean and Agile to the whole organization. A lot of the other ones are just they find us from looking for better process management tools, or they've heard about Kanban, or they look for visual management, looking for something to replace their spreadsheets and give them a little bit better project management capability, visibility into what's going on, and they'll sign up. Most of that's really self-service for us. So the sales process for us is really focused on going after the bigger accounts. All those smaller ones sort of just go out and sign up for a trial and click pay and put their credit card in and just start
so you really don't need a separate sales force or...
We do for the bigger accounts.
Right, so, but not for the smaller accounts.
Right, not for the smaller accounts. We just sort of let those come in. And when we notice a big name come in there, like a small account at a big name, Fortune 50 company, then we put that off to a salesperson and say, well, maybe see if there's anything else there.
Sure. So tennis lessons.
Yeah, that was one of the early ones I thought was interesting. There's people using it for autistic kids to help them manage their chores and manage their homework.
Because it's a very visual kind of...
Very visual, very tactile, so you can create a board, and then when they're done with it, they can walk up to the screen if you put it on the iPad on the wall or a touch screen on the wall and just drag the card over into done. And that's one of the reasons I think it works too, just for anybody, even in the corporate IT world. I was a software developer, and I got nothing out of going into the project management system and changing the status of something to done. Didn't do anything for me at all. But there is some little rush of dopamine that happens when I walk up to the screen and grab the card and go, I'm finished with that. And if it's up on the screen and my face is on that card, there's social pressure for me to actually move it when I'm done. So you get a lot more real-time status information out of it too.
And so for a single user, about how much would this cost for them to use?
So there's a free version that's free it's got some limited features, and so people using it at home for their kids and stuff are often using the free version. Our highest level edition is $19 per user per month, and then there's a $15 per user per month.
Sounds like something I might recommend to a few of my students over at Belmont
as
a way to manage their time, since they don't seem to do that very well these days.
We also give it away to students in an academic setting who are using it for class projects or things like that. So there's all kinds of examples where people email us and say, I'm at the University of Karachi, and they're doing some kind of big project, and can we use it for free? And we encourage that. So
we'll talk. All right. Chris, thank you very much for coming in today. Enjoyed it very much.
Thanks a lot. Me too.
Thank you.
Cheers.